And welcome in, everybody, to week 7 of Pick'em. And of course, this show is brought to you in part by True Fusion Gym right here in the Pacific Northwest. Use a QR code on the screen, get a free 5-day pass at any of the 3 locations, whether it's Bellevue, Ballard, or their newest location in University Village. You can do Pilates, boot camp, yoga. They also have all the hot rooms. Find your edge at True Fusion Gym. And of course, this is a Pick'em show. So if you wanted to bet alongside us right here on Football Talk, use the QR code on the screen through BetUS or BetUs and get up to 125% of your first 3 deposits, 10% bet guarantee in the event that you happen to lose. Now, we went 13-1, so generally the picks that we're giving you tend to pan out. But that being said, that 10% bonus sometimes does come in handy. Or, if you happen to just be bad at betting, sometimes it helps to get some of that money back. Obviously, some restrictions do apply, so be sure to read all the fine print. All right. So we did go 13-1 last week, and that was helpful in the way of we had a few weeks where we were struggling. And we had dropped all the way down to 8th at one point 2 weeks ago. Based on the last 2 weeks, kind of clawed our way back into it, sitting in 3rd and 1 game behind the leaders. We have 2 people tied for first place there. So if you're playing along with us, remember to get your picks locked in. That's on the CBS Sports app. And of course, all of the picks lock at kickoff tonight. So got to make sure that those picks are locked in. Otherwise, you get a 0 for the week. It is tough to win. You can knock yourself right out of the money rounds if you do not get your picks locked in. So be sure, if you haven't done it yet, I haven't looked today to see if everybody has it locked in. But if you haven't, be sure to get that done before kickoff tonight. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to get back into it. All right. So the game that we got wrong this last week, I had the Titans winning at home. It was a game that I kind of felt could go either way. I thought the Colts had enough injuries that they probably weren't going to be able to get it done. It comes down to a field goal. So, that's that coin flip kind of game. The other one that I should have gotten wrong was the Denver Chargers game. I had on my pick'em sheet selected Denver, but within the app, I had kept going back and forth, and it ended up still being on the Chargers. So although my pick'em sheet had me wrong, the official location had it right. So ended up 13-1. That being said, everybody had a great week this last week. We actually had a perfect 14-0. My wife did that one, which was amazing. Nick Bodkins, another buddy of mine, has his own podcast, the Bodkins Show. Definitely check them out. But he also had a 13-1. In fact, the person that came in last place this week still went 10-4. So it was a great week as far as getting picks right. Fortunately for me, I had just enough right to climb back into striking distance because, again, it was just one of those. The first week was good. The next couple of weeks really faltered, fell way behind. So I was a little worried I wasn't going to be within striking distance, trying to go for a 3rd championship here in a row. And, so at least I'm back in the mix. Never want to be knocked out quite that early, unless you're going to finish last, because then, at least you get the last place finish of your entry fee back. So that being said, not a lot of games to go over when it comes to this last week, again, because we only got one wrong. So we can kind of dive right into this coming week. And we start that off with the Broncos at the Saints. This is going to be a little bit of a weird game. The Broncos are actually favored on the road here by 3, over under of 37. And the confidence, everybody, 55% of America is going with the Broncos here It's the 18th and 20th ranked teams. What is a little bit misleading is that the Saints actually are better in most categories, but a lot of that is because of the first 2 weeks of the season where they put up over 40 points in back-to-back games. They have not been that team since then. Now Spencer Rattler is their starting QB because Derek Carr is hurt. They do have some other injuries along that team as well. And let's not forget the Broncos have one of the best defenses in the league. So this over-under of 37 feels about right. Neither team is going to score a ton of points. At least they haven't shown us the ability to do that so far. So I'm going with the Broncos here. They're 3-3 versus 2-4. Like these teams are very similar. It's going to be the injuries that takes the Saints out of this one. So Thursday night, going to be an ugly game as we come to expect on Thursdays. So part of the fun of watching this game is just going to be listening to Al Michaels hate on this game. I'm going to go with the Broncos on the road to get this done in a low scoring, kind of ugly game. Broncos defense will be the difference here. Then, of course, we kick it off with the London game. Patriots, technically the away team, Jags home team. Jaguars are a 5.5-point favorite. I hate that line. If you've ever heard me on any other betting shows, 5.5 is that kiss of death most of the time. And we have a couple of those coming this week. So 5.5 usually means there's an upset. That being said, I'm still taking the Jags here. I expect them to be able to move the ball a little bit. The Patriots only have a defense. Their offense really isn't great. We did at least see something encouraging out of Drake May this last week in his initial, his first NFL start. But I don't think it's going to be enough to keep pace with what the Jags can do. Even though the Jaguars don't play defense really, I think they should be able to at least get a win. 5.5 probably is too much, though. I could see the Patriots covering, still in a loss, but I could see them covering that. Over under 41.5. I mean, it's hard to think that there's even going to be that many points scored. I would lean towards the under here. Really, that hook probably does it. Most of the scoring will be by the Jags. The Patriots will get 10, 13 points maybe. And so that'll kind of be about where they are. 81% of America taking the Jags here. It's the 31st and the 29th team. Also going to be an ugly game. I feel bad for the London market and really for Thursday night football. It tends to be some of the worst matchups of the week. And I know it's just because they look at London in the way of it's going to sell out no matter what they put over there. There's just not enough games. So inevitably it'll sell out. Thursday night, they know it's a primetime game. People are going to watch it. There's no other competition because it's a Thursday. So, you end up with teams like the Broncos and the Saints where, it's just going to be a bad game. But I'm going to go with the Jags here. I do want to go over some of the numbers here because this is going to be a hilariously terrible game. And so let's bring this up real quick. Right. So we have the 30th ranked offense of the Patriots against the 31st ranked Jaguar defense. Passing offense 31st versus passing defense 31st. 12th rushing against 11th rushing. 31 in points put up, 31 in points defended. These teams are just so bad. And then you look at the other side. You have the Jags, 19th in total yards. Defense of the Patriots, 25th. You got 18th and 24th respectively as well. Rushing yards put up versus rushing yards defense, both 19th. And points for and points allowed, 21st and 22nd. So they're very similar teams. I'm just going to go with the Jags probably have a little bit more explosiveness when it comes to the offense. Not that we've seen it, but we've seen moments of it. And if they happen to hit on a couple of those things, that'll probably be the difference in this game. Again, it's a 5.5 pointer. So I would actually kind of expect the Patriots to cover, but I got the Jags winning. And then we move into the Sunday morning games. And of course, I say Sunday morning because here on the West Coast, it is a 10 a.m. game. I know that on the East Coast, it is, 1 o'clock. But they're mimosa games here on the West Coast. And, I always prefer that time zone when I'm watching sports because even if it's the night game, you're done by 8 or 9 at night. And, you don't have to stay up till midnight to watch a game, which I always appreciate. So we got the Seahawks 3-3 going to Atlanta, playing the Falcons 4-2, the 16th ranked team versus the 8th. Falcons are a 3-point favorite at home, so it's nothing to write home about. They are basically giving them the home field advantage situation. Over under a 51, so they do think some points are going to be scored here today. And 89% of America going with the Falcons, and rightfully so. The Seahawks have so many issues on that defense. There's injuries everywhere. They had guys that they elevated from the practice squad that then also got hurt. And now they're digging even deeper into practice squads. They brought in a defensive lineman from the Jaguars. I don't know how excited you can be about that when you think of how bad the Jaguars defense is. Of course, we just went over that. They're ranked close to last in everything. And if it's a guy that they were willing to let go of with a unit that's, one of the last in the league, it doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. Maybe it's the one guy and I didn't know, but, it just doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. Obviously, there's so many injuries that this is probably going to be a hard one to overcome. So I'm going to go with the Falcons at home here. Again, I think the defensive injuries are just way too much to overcome for this Seattle team. And, as a Hawks fan, I hope I'm wrong, but it doesn't feel like a win. All right. So now we got the Titans at the Bills. Bills are a 9.5 point favorite. That is probably fairly accurate. This is not going to be a pretty game. Over under a 41. That is probably mostly going to be the Bills. And 99% of America has taken the Bills here. 27th ranked Titans versus the 7th ranked Bills. This one doesn't need a ton of analysis. This one's pretty straightforward. You have a team that is in contention for not only winning their division, but trying to make a playoff run. They add another element with Amari Cooper coming to town from the Browns. So, this Bills team has just gotten better since a week ago, and the Titans are exactly who they were. In fact, they might even be looking to trade D-Hop. So this is a Titans team that is probably just about throwing in the towel. At least that's the way everything kind of sounds at this point. So I'm going to go with the Bills to win easily. I could see them covering that 9.5. This does seem like it'll be like a 10+ point victory for the Bills. If you're a Bills fan, I'd be excited about this one being on your roster or on your schedule. But at the end of the day, you can't overlook them. Still an NFL team. So as long as everybody remains focused, this will be a easy win. If they start looking past them, that's how you lose games. All right. So then we have the Bengals at the Browns. The Browns just lose Amari Cooper. Deshaun Watson has largely shown that he is not good at football. So that is definitely going to be a problem for them. They also seem like they're losing buy-in from the rest of the team. You're watching Stefanski, who looks like he is just at his wit's end with this team, in the way of you'd watch Deshaun make a bad decision, get sacked or something like that. You'd actually see Stefanski kind of chuckle on the sideline. So kind of a bad look, but understandable at this point. It's a guy that's likely going to get fired for probably the only time you'll look at a coach and be like, yeah, this is definitely not your fault. Like I said on Coast to Coast yesterday, or maybe it was the day before, Stefanski sure seems like if he was really in charge of this roster, he would have sat Deshaun down already. I would have to imagine that this is the GM or the owner dictating that Deshaun has to start because they gave him all this guaranteed money. And does Stefanski ultimately get fired? Probably. But this is definitely that time where I really don't feel like it's his fault. That being said, he's going to lose another game right here to the Bengals. It's the 2-4 Bengals against the 1-5 Browns. Neither one of them are good teams, right? The Bengals don't play defense. They have an explosive offense. They can do some stuff, but the Browns defense is the one thing that they do well. So weirdly, this will probably be a fairly balanced game, albeit ugly, but probably fairly balanced. And 95% are taking the Bengals, and I am riding with the rest of America there. I'm taking the Bengals here. I just haven't seen anything out of the Browns that makes me think that they're trying to win games anymore. All right, we got the Texans at the Packers. I do like this game. So the Packers are a 3-point favorite at home, over under a 47.5. 58% are going with the Pack as well. It's the third ranked 5-1 Texans against sixth ranked 4-2 Packers. I am actually going the other way on this, though. I like the Texans here on the road. I think they're going to be able to get this done. Should pretty much be a close game again. They have it as a 3-pointer. That's probably about right. I'm just going the other way. So I'm going against what the Sharps there in Vegas have and taking the Texans on the road. All right. We got the Dolphins at the Colts. Dolphins ranked 23rd, 2-3, and the Colts 21st, 3-3. That is a tough game to select here because obviously the Dolphins have all the weapons, right? They don't play defense really, but they have all the weapons. And they're coming off a bye. Tyler Huntley now with the team for a couple of weeks, get some good reps. Probably has a better command of the playbook, maybe has a little more of the playbook available to him. So the Dolphins really could make something out of this. The Colts are a 3-point favorite at home, over under 43.5. 90% are taking the Colts. I do like the Colts here as well. And it's not because I think the Colts are so good. I think it's because the Dolphins have just wildly underperformed. So this is more about what the Dolphins aren't than what the Colts are. And so I have the Colts here again in a game that's probably going to be a field goal. It's as good as you can feel about it, but I got the Colts here. This feels like a coin flip of a game, though. All right, we have the Lions and the Vikings, easily the game of the week. You have the 4-1 Lions, the 5-0 Vikings. They are in Minnesota. Vikings are a 1.5-point favorite. So even Vegas doesn't really know which way to go on this. Your standard home field advantage is 3 points, and they're not even getting that. So over under a 50.5. So they understand that there's going to be points scored in this game. And I would probably even still take the over on this, but 53% are taking the Lions here, despite the fact the Vikings are technically a home team favorite. It's a 4th-ranked team versus 2nd-ranked team. So this is the NFC North battle right in front of you. Like, this is going to be a fantastic game. I'm going with the Vikings here, and only because of Aiden Hutchinson's tibia break this last week. And why I say that is he is such a leader on that defense, such a high motor. He leads the league in quarterback hurries. He's always disrupting the play, even if he doesn't get home, right? Well, with him being out on IR, he misses the rest of the season for sure. They haven't filled that gap. They haven't traded for anything, so they're going to have to elevate somebody into that starting spot for this week, and they don't have anybody that can replace Hutchinson. Like, he's a difference maker. They don't have anybody that can quite get there. Now, I was kind of expecting them to try and make a play for a Max Crosby on a Raiders team that is clearly getting rid of pieces. Maybe a Myles Garrett with the Browns because another team that's just starting to fall apart. I could have seen them try and do something like that, especially like a Crosby would be amazing when you think of he still has a couple years left on his contract. Aiden Hutchinson comes back next year, so you'd have both of them. That could be amazing, but they haven't made any of those moves as of yet. And so I think that gives the Vikings the edge here. Still going to be a fantastic game, but that Vikings defense is far ahead of schedule. And, this Vikings team actually looks better top to bottom than we really thought they would be, certainly at the beginning of the year, where I thought they potentially bring up the last spot in this division. And, currently they are leading it. Obviously that gets decided, after this weekend, but I do like the Vikings here in probably a field goal type of game. The line is only 1.5, so I have the Vikings to cover. All right. And wrapping up the morning games, we have the Eagles at the Giants. Eagles are a 3-point favorite on the road, over under a 43, 90% taking the Eagles. There has been a lot of talk about the Giants being able to pull this out. Some of them are looking at it as the defense is better than people give them credit, or the Eagles have fallen off. They're not able to do the things on offense, get everybody clicking the way that this roster would indicate they should be able to. For me, it comes down to Daniel Jones is still part of this Giants team. And if you're relying on Daniel Jones to be that guy, you're going to lose a lot of games. Also, you have the fact that this is going to be a Saquon Barkley, revenge game of sorts, because it's not like they just let him go. They did him in a way where he felt disrespected. And so he's going to come into this game with something to prove. Like he's going to want to touch the ball all day and just run these guys over. So this looks like on paper that it'll be closer than it will be. I think that the Eagles easily cover that 3 points and absolutely beat up on this Giants team. Also, something to keep in mind is the Giants don't run the ball particularly well. So if they have to become one-dimensional, you're going to see Daniel Jones get sacked numerous times, certainly knocked to the ground, even if they don't sack him. So this could be a really long day for Daniel Jones and the Giants, certainly for Giants fans. I got the Eagles here to cruise. All right. And then we have the afternoon games. So we got the Raiders at the Rams. The Raiders are 2-4, 25th ranked, versus the Rams that are 1-4, 26th ranked. Rams are a 6.5-point favorite at home and 43.5. Hey, what's happening, Coach? So yeah, I got the Rams. I got the Rams kind of cruising here. The Raiders have given up on this season. They're starting Aiden O'Connell. They obviously traded Devontae this week. So this is one where the Raiders are absolutely going to get beat up. 84% of America is going with the Rams here. And although the Raiders numbers are technically better than the Rams, this is a team that's falling apart and already looking towards next season. The Rams are trying to keep their season alive to some degree. They're not out of anything as bad as the division has been playing. You have two teams that are tied in the front of this division at 3-3, both of which I think lose this week. So if they can get this win, they're only a game behind. The door is still open for them to do something, despite the fact that they have most of their receivers injured, things like that. So they're not out of it. I don't feel like they're trying to be out of it yet either. So this is one where the Rams get them. We have Panthers at Washington. Now the Panthers are as bad of a team as you can get here in the NFL. They are 1-5, 32nd ranked. And they're basically 32nd ranked in most things. So they have found a way to really be at the bottom. And unfortunately, this isn't something new for them. They've been able to do this for a couple of years, and they're going against Washington, which weirdly is 12th when it comes to the power rankings. They are 4-2, but they have looked fantastic. Washington is an 8-point favorite, and over under a 41.5. 99% of America taking Washington here. And I mean, I have to go that route too. Not only do the Panthers not have a ton of talent on this team anyway, you combine that with the 24 people that are on their injury report. So not only were you not a highly talented team, but most of those guys are injured. So you have the backups of starters that would probably be backups on most other teams. So this is a game that's probably going to get out of hand in a hurry. And you kind of feel bad for Panthers fans. They've been going through it for a couple of years. Hopefully this offseason they can make some moves, get a little bit better protection on that offensive line, maybe pick up some weapons. Otherwise the path forward is a little bit bleak if you're a Panthers fan. The other game that I think is going to be really good is this one right here. It's going to be Kansas City at the 49ers. KC obviously is undefeated, 5-0. Against the Niners, who have struggled to put things together. They're 3-3, technically in the lead of the West, tied record-wise with the Seahawks. Niners are a 1.5-point favorite at home, which means Vegas does not have a lot of confidence there. Over under a 47. I would take the over here, but KC, 62% of people are going with. And although the Niners numbers are better in just about every category, this is another team that is probably going to falter because of injuries. They have a ton of injuries, and they're at key locations. So as much as I would lean towards a healthy Niners team to win, because let's be honest, Kansas City hasn't looked good. Their team is winning, but it's not winning they're not winning in a way that is convincing, right? Like it's just sort of sloppy gameplay that has worked out. Eventually that's going to bite them. Unfortunately, probably not going to be this week. KC continues to roll 6-0 against a Niners team that's a little bit beat up. We have the Sunday night game, Jets at the Steelers. 2-4 Jets versus the 4-2 Steelers. Jets are favored on the road here by 2 points, over under a 38.5, meaning they don't think many points are going to be scored. The Steelers are getting 60% of the selection here. This is a unique game in the way of you have Davante Adams joining the Jets. The Jets have a lot of chaos surrounding them in the way of, they just fire Saleh. They elevate their DC to be their new head coach. They elevate another coach to be calling the plays. They demote Hackett. Then you look at the other side. You have the Steelers that they are talking about potentially starting Russell Wilson this week. So does that create some sort of conflict within the building on that front? Obviously, you have their number one target that has been kind of he's just kind of put out weird messages as far as how he feels about the way that things are going down there. So this is going to be kind of an interesting game to watch, more so for the off the field impacts that can kind of get onto the field. Those are some of the things that I'm looking for out of this game. Ultimately, I think the Jets win this. Realistically, probably going to be a 3-point game. A lot of people are talking about how good that Steelers defense is, which it absolutely is. The part that they neglect to remember is the Jets have a top 5 defense also. And this Steelers team struggles to move the ball. So if you are looking for the Steelers to be able to hang a ton of points, I don't see that being a thing. You're going up against a Jets team that now has Davante Adams, Lazard, Garrett Wilson. That's a pretty good trio. And even if you have a great defense, you're not going to be able to lock those guys down all day, typically anyway. If you can get some of the guys home to disrupt some things, if TJ can get through, sure, right? Throws will be early, they'll be off target, absolutely. You give Aaron Rodgers time, those guys will get open. So I would look for the Jets to cover that 2-point spread and get the win on the road. All right, so we are back to 2 Monday night games. And I know I've talked about this before, but I do not like the multiple primetime game where you are essentially making it regional, right? Like if it's going to be a primetime game, awesome. And if you want to, fantastic. Do them in succession, right? Do the first one a little bit earlier in the day so that it wraps up at the time that the next one starts. When you have 2 of them on at the same time, you've now made your primetime slot a regional slot, right? It's one of the reasons why you want to play in primetime versus Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon where you're competing with other markets and, regionally you may not get to see other games. Well, now you have this on Monday nights when they do these double headers because they're not a double header in a way where you get to watch them both, right? One of them is your local broadcast. One of them is NFL Network. So if you don't have NFL Network, you don't get to see it. It's not like it comes up on Red Zone because there's only the 2 games. So it's not a good situation. I don't like that the NFL is doing it. They did it last year a couple of times as well. It's their way of getting another primetime game, but it's kind of not. It cheapens the feel of that primetime game. So I'm not a huge fan of it. But that being said, the first game of the doubleheader is the Ravens at the Bucks, and this is going to be a great game. You have the 4-2 Ravens against 4-2 Bucks, 5th-ranked team versus 10th-ranked team, respectively. Ravens are a 3.5-point favorite on the road, and over under 49. 77% of the U.S. are taking the Ravens here, and I agree with them. A lot of this stems on the fact that I just never trust Baker to be that guy. He can be fantastic or he can have a horrendous day. And so I think this is where the Ravens will be able to get this. They'll have a steady flow of Derrick Henry, provided the coaching doesn't get in their own way for the Ravens. That has been my biggest concern since the playoffs last year, is this Ravens coaching staff who for years have done incredibly smart things all the time. But they seem to be forgetting to use their running backs. And although the last couple of weeks it's been great, you look at the first 2 weeks of the season and they rushed Derrick Henry 32 or 34 times total. That's not only doesn't get him in a rhythm, but it's not recipe for success. That's not what this team is built around. And so for the last 3 weeks, they have been running the ball consistently. Derrick Henry looks like he is the old Derrick Henry, absolutely just torching teams. So as long as they come in with their sound game plan of using that running back the way they're supposed to, the Ravens should win this game relatively easily. If they decide to get cute and get in their own way, kind of do the Shanahan overthink the game thing, that's where the Bucks can sneak this game out, is if they move away from the running game. They try and make Lamar do everything. They do a lot of the zone read where all of a sudden Lamar is just calling his own number a lot. That is not a great way to win games. And against the decent defense of the Bucks, I don't think it'll be I don't think it'd be successful. So as long as they go in with the idea of, hey, we're going to use our running back, it's worked all year, it's how you win games with this team, then I think they're good. But again, if they shy away from the run game, they decide to get, pass happy like they've done, the playoffs last year, the first 2 games this year, that's how they lose this game. So I'm going to still take the Ravens here. It'll really come down to what it is the Ravens coaching does. And the final game, the late If you can call it the late Monday night game, it starts an hour after the first one. It's the Chargers at the Cardinals. 3-2 Chargers, 14th ranked versus the 2-4 Cards that are 23rd. The Cardinals are a fun, scrappy team that can hang with anybody. They're young, they're inconsistent. That ultimately is going to be what costs them the game. They are a 2.5 point underdog at home, over under 43.5, 77% taking the Chargers here. I like the Chargers on the road. They're not a great team, and I'm not going to pretend they are. Like, this is one of those, if you're betting, I would keep the money in your wallet, or maybe, if you were thinking of pizza money type of bet, just order the pizza. It's a Monday night. Enjoy the game. Try not to lose money on this one, because this is definitely a game that could go either way. You would probably actually be better off to do some prop bets during the game, because the lines will shift around and you can probably make some money that way. But as far as, pre-game bets, there's not a lot of bets I would take on this game, because either one of these teams can win this. They're both very flawed. Obviously, neither team is great. So this is definitely one of those where you keep your money in your wallet and just enjoy the game. All right. So that gets us through week 7. So just to recap it, Thursday night tonight, I have the Broncos. We're going to go with the Jags in London. In the early games, I have the Falcons, the Bills, Bengals, Texans, Colts, Vikings, Eagles. Make sure I get that selected. We have the Rams going with Washington, Kansas City, the Jets, the Ravens on the road, and the Chargers on the road. All right. And then my official pick'em sheet will be posted after this show, just like it is every week. And that will about do it. Again, if you are watching along with us, be sure to lock in your picks. If you are playing with us on the CBS Sports app, those picks lock tonight at kickoff. So make sure that you get all of your picks locked in, because if you don't, you get a 0 for the week. So it's not the miss a game and you can still be okay. You will full on miss the entire week of picks. So be sure to get that in. And of course, if you are into sports betting, you can bet right alongside us here at Football Talk using the QR code on the screen. Your first 3 deposits, 125% with Bet Us. And of course, there is a 10% bet guarantee if you happen to lose. Restrictions apply. But again, if you want to bet alongside us, do that. And of course, if you've been hanging out with us here on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. Helps us bring our content to you. If you're watching on Roku, stay tuned for the next hour. And other than that, we will see you next week. We will have a guest again. Unfortunately, this week we had an illness. So, 2 weeks in a row, it was a hurricane and then an illness this week. So you never really know what things are going to come your way. But thanks for hanging out with us today, and we will see you all next week.